like this opportunity to be able to provide out information to everybody at the same point in time, so that way we can update a lot of different media outlets all together in one opportunity. So we have started this election and we have been open collecting in ballots for a couple of days. And I just really wanted to start with thanking people for voting in the safest, healthiest possible way. We worked hard to really accommodate voters where they're at and added in a drive-through drop-off because we could tell that on Tuesday we would receive quite a few ballots in person. We received back over 4,000 ballots through our drive-through drop-off in person on Tuesday the 13th. We crunched those numbers. We got one ballot every 13 seconds on Tuesday. So voters were excited to cast those ballots and deliver them back to the elections office. We were able to set up that drive-through drop-off, and we're very appreciative of that because every one of those voters was able to drop off their ballot outside instead of entering the building where we would be coming into contact with other workers, the public, and it was definitely a healthy and safe option. But it's not always available for us because of the traffic flow through our parking lot here. So what we did see is that throughout the day, we had a few times where our traffic had backed up because we had so many people coming through. To help accommodate this on election day, we're going to have drive-through ballot drop-offs throughout the community as well as indoor drop-offs, and we'll have 10 other locations aside from here to help serve voters. So we're going to have a lot of drive-through drop-off locations because the voters are really appreciating this, and we want to meet voters where they're at. I think that the big aspect has been we've been receiving back returns at a rate that we have not seen in the elections office before. So this is fantastic news. I often say our job is to help make sure that we get every eligible voter a ballot and we count every valid vote. And some of those numbers that are really helpful for that. In Missoula County, we have 88,995 registered voters as of 10 minutes ago when I pulled these numbers. Out of that, we have sent out over 79,000 ballots. It's 79,414. But we voided quite a few of those ballots because those voters have moved out of the state or to other counties. So right now we have 76,002 active ballots for voters in Missoula County. That number is changing on a daily basis as we have voters coming in to register, receive a ballot, and vote in person. And it's also changing because we're voiding those ballots for voters who have moved to other states or other counties, and they need to be pulled into that election in those areas. Now, we have received in 7,848 ballots. Those are ballots that we have gotten in and verified signatures on as of 10 minutes ago. That equates to 10% turnout on the third day of ballot returns, record setting. When we take in all of the ballots we have received but not yet had time to scan in and record those, we have received in 18,285 ballots, or 24% turnout on the third day of voting. Those numbers don't include any of our drive-through drop-off here at the election center for today. So we are on track towards record-setting numbers. Now that's our ballot return rate. So that's that 76,000 ballots compared to the number that we have received in. When we compare it to our voter turnout, because we have two numbers for a vote-by-mail election, we don't send ballots to our inactive voters in Missoula County. By state law, no inactive voter receives a ballot. That's that 88,995. And so for our turnout, we're at 8% turnout that have been recorded through the system, or 20% turnout as we get through processing all of those ballots. I like to point that out because on a vote-by-mail election like this, we verify every single signature on every envelope. And while we can receive them in from voters at a rate of 1 every 13 seconds, we can't verify those signatures at that rate. So we're working hard. We've upped our staffing and we'll be working throughout the weekend to make sure that this is fully up to date. Now there's an important reason for this. We always encourage voters to check myvoterpagemt.com to check to make sure their ballot's gone to the right address and been accepted. This website always has a 24-hour delay. We were getting calls from people who had come through our drive-through drop-off on the Tuesday, the 13th, and they wanted to check later that day to make sure their ballot had been accepted. My voter page updates early in the morning every day with the following day's information. So it's an accurate reflection of where it was from that following day at midnight at 5:30 in the morning. But there is about a 24-hour delay before that information appears on there. In addition to that, we're processing through ballots as quickly as we can while ensuring accuracy and making sure that we're checking every signature off the database and having multiple sets of eyes if there's any question. So we're planning on having that fully updated so that voters can feel very confident come Monday, those results will be fully up to date. In addition to this, we had our first satellite office event in Frenchtown on Tuesday. We served 20 voters in person, got them new ballots or replacement ballots, and had about 180 voters drop off a ballot at that satellite event. We'll also be doing one on Tuesday upcoming in Seeley Lake at the tax extension office. And we are always happy to kind of get out in the community, help serve voters where they're at, especially for some of these rural communities. We want to be sure that they can access the election services without needing to come all the way into town. As we gear up towards the election, we're starting to see our mail ballot returns eclipsing our in-person returns, which we really appreciate. Earlier this year, the Center for Disease Control had stated that the safest way for a voter to vote is to vote by mail. It limits person-to-person contact, and with these tools like myvoterpagemt.com, voters can feel confident in their vote by checking as they get closer to the election to make sure their ballot's been received. That's my quick update for you guys. Allison, was there anything that we had kind of discussed that we're missing for today?
Sorry, trying to find the mute button. I don't think so. Could you maybe just go over those two different numbers again, Bradley, the 24% and the 20%?
Absolutely. So this is tonight, when you see your reports from the Secretary of State's website or the report from our website, you're going to see a voter turnout number. I don't love the voter turnout number for a vote by mail election because I don't feel like it's a very accurate report. This is every registered voter, and inactive voters are included as registered voters. They are eligible to vote in elections, but they're not automatically sent a ballot. So we have 88,995 registered voters, but we sent out 76,002 ballots. The difference in there are our inactive voters, and you become inactive in two methods. You don't vote in a federal general election, and then we will send you two mailings. If both of those mailings are not replied to, you're not canceled. You're moved to this inactive status where you're not automatically sent a ballot. We have over 10,000 voters in that category in Missoula County alone. The other way you'd become inactive is if you have a mail ballot election and then your mail ballot is returned undeliverable. We're going to send you another notice, and if that comes back as undeliverable, you're moved to that inactive status. So these are voters who are not regularly voting or who are not receiving communications from the elections office. In that turnout number, they're going to appear as a registered voter, but they were never issued a ballot. So our current turnout is 8% of what we have recorded into the computer, or 20% in total. But if we compare that number of ballots sent to number of ballots received, the number of ballots received right now is at 10% recorded through the computer, or 24% of our total voters.
Okay, thanks.
To the other people on here too?
One other thing, do you happen to have numbers on how many have been returned by mail and how many have been dropped off?
Yes, I do. So forgive me, I'm crunching these right now and I have them written on paper here. And I think the best way to go is I'll go by each day. We have received in 4,085 in person on the 13th. On the 14th, we received in 5,750 via the mail and 2,250 in person. Now, today we've gotten in 6,200 via the mail, and we're still collecting them, so we don't have an accounting for today's numbers in person. But I'm trying to kind of keep track of that to help show the difference between voters whom are voting via the mail or voting in person. And we're really working to try and meet voters where they're at. Our goal is to issue ballots and count ballot votes. And what's our overall area we want to achieve? The highest possible turnout that we can get. And so what we want to do is make sure that we can issue as many valid ballots as we can and get all of those back if it's possible at all. Right now, at 24% of our ballots received, we're on track towards our record-setting turnout for this election, and that's exactly what we want to see. Voters voting, having the most turnout we've had, and done in the safest and healthiest way for voters.
Thanks, Bradley. I don't think I have anything else. Do we have any questions from media?
Hi, I have a question. Shannon with NBC Montana. So just to clarify with the numbers, because I'm still a little bit confused with the different percentages. So you guys have back 24% of the active ballots that were sent out?
Yes, exactly. And so that number is the number of ballots that were sent out compared to the number we have received back in. We're still working on signature verifying all of those ballots, but we have gotten back 24% of that 76,000 ballots that were sent out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mike Powers from KPAX here. You mentioned that there's going to be 10 drop-offs on Election Day. Is that correct?
Yeah, my apologies. Actually, we'll have 11 drop-offs other
Okay.
than the election center on Election Day. From various areas throughout the community, including Seeley Lake, the fairgrounds, McCormick Park. One of the big aspects are we don't encourage voters to come here to the election center to drop off a ballot on Election Day. This is due to the fact that any voter that needs to register or receive a new ballot, a replacement ballot, must come here. And in order to accommodate that traffic on Election Day, we're going to be directing voters to McCormick Park instead of through our parking lot here.
And as far as a lot of people are talking about security at these ballot drop-off locations, do you feel like they will be secure?
Absolutely. This is not our first time running a mail ballot election. As a matter of fact, we ran a federal primary election in a very similar capacity. We train in our election judges. They'll have sealed ballot drop boxes. There will be drop teams coming to collect them throughout the day. They'll be sealed, and anytime ballots are transported for Missoula County elections, they're always done in teams of 2, sealed and signed off on to make sure that they come through. We want to encourage voters to use the closest ballot drop box to them. They can know that they've dropped it off with a trained election official and know that their vote will be counted.
You mentioned Seeley Lake. Will you be putting drop boxes in other smaller communities in the area?
So yes, we've got a whole list of them on our website and on the back of our instructions for Election Day, but we're covering between Clinton, Seeley Lake, Frenchtown, Lolo, as well as multiple in Missoula proper.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bradley, this is Emily Adamson over at ABC Fox Montana. I was hoping you could repeat the numbers for in-person versus mail, please. I'm slow at taking notes. I'm just an old news director, not a young, nimble reporter here.
No, that's quite all right. As it's kind of hard for us because we don't have a great report for these, so I'm taking them down on paper. And let me read them off to you again. On 10/13 in person, 4,085. On 10/14 via the mail, 5,750. In person, 2,250. And then today we received 6,200. Now you'll notice those are estimates. We're going through, they're bundled in in groups of 50 when we receive them from the post office. And that is just our quick count. As we go through and record them into the computer, it may change by a couple.
Perfect, thank you.
Absolutely.
This is Katie Miller with KPAX. We're just wondering, have you received any complaints from voters about their ballots being altered or somehow not what they're supposed to be?
So we've been really fortunate to have our ballots be very well prepared going out and in a really great fashion. We did a lot of work between the primary and this election to improve quality control through our printers. And we utilize a local printer here in Missoula to help us with preparing our ballots and some of our other materials. We've been very fortunate to have very limited errors. Now, every ballot is prepared by a team of human beings. So we have had a couple of errors where there was an extra envelope included in there, or missing an envelope, or possibly missing one page of that ballot. We've been tracking through and we've received in 7 reports so far. So out of 77,000, I think our error rate is pretty darn good considering that it is a very human process.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you guys for joining us.
Appreciate you guys doing this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.